Okay, I need to explain this a little bit. What is going on between two of the characters here is based on a throwaway comment made by Christina of Sweden to, of all people, the English ambassador, who went by the most magnificent name of Bulstrode Whitlock. If he hadn't been existed, you'd had to make him up, wouldn't you? When she was introducing Ebba Sparr, who was her lover, she described her as her bedfellow, and nobody blinked an eye. So I thought, the Queen's bedfellow. Okay. So actually, Saoirse, who is one of the very main characters in the later part of the book, is what is described as a song spinner. It's a kind of witch, and she does all of her magic through song. See, I get all of the things I'm interested in. It's a completely self-indulgent book. She is also Grain's bedfellow, which is kind of inconvenient for her actual lover. Saoirse lay beside Grain, once more keeping her from the cold, and Breed waited and waited, not able to sleep, not able to keep her mind from dwelling where she did not wish. Nothing else I should have told her. Breed has just had some really, really bad news, and she's in a proper state. She spends a lot of time in a proper state, I have to say. She does have occasional happy moments. Fowler whispered into her brain, and Jodis's warning, and the unknown child somewhere in the city wearing a chain about her neck. Breed kicked off the blankets in a sudden fury and paced about the chamber, then reckless and deeply frowning, hauled open the door to prowl the outer room. Her head tilted for sound from Grain's bedchamber. Round and round she went, cat-footed, but fierce with anger and possessed of a darkness she hadn't known before, that she both feared and welcomed. Saoirse listened to Breed's circuit of the outer room. She felt the air stir and raised her head. Breed stood in the doorway, one hand pressed against the wards. She was shadowy, light catching at the collar and sleeve of her shirt, a tangle of half-braided hair across her shoulder. Saoirse couldn't see her expression, but as she turned her head, moonlight carved a momentary curve of chin, neck, shoulder, and Saoirse drew in her breath and glanced quickly at Grain. The Queen's eyes flickered. Go? Don't go? Saoirse couldn't tell. She glanced away and Breed was gone from the doorway. She threw back the blankets and shrugged into Grain's discarded mantle. Grain made no murmur, and Saoirse almost scurried to the door. Breed stood with her back to Grain's bedchamber, turning her head slowly from side to side, seeking out the breath of movement, the stirring she could sense but not place. A soft, heavy, cloth-on-wood sound, a slight coolness in the stifling heat. She slid her foot forward. There, she could feel a draught on her bared instep. A hanging swayed, the edge caressing the floor in soft movement. And why should it? Cautiously, she pulled the hanging back and found a door with a key in its lock. Saoirse's breath jolted in her chest. She'd forgotten the door existed. Breed swung round, her hand still clenching in the cloth of the hanging. Where does this lead? She asked softly. The roof. Breed turned the key, not stiff as she had expected. Who has oiled this lock? The door opened inward and moonlight cascaded in. Breed blinked. I did when I first got here and thought I might be short of air once in a while, Saoirse said softly. So short of air I've been I forgot all about it. Is it secure? There's nothing up there, just the roof. There's no way down to other parts of the building. So it's unguarded. Completely. Saoirse reached an arm about Breed, pulling her close, feeling skin heat through the shirt that was all she wore. Almost without thinking, her hands curved and caressed, and she bent her head, leaning her mouth to Breed's neck. Breed shivered and turned to meet the questing lips with her own, turned to reach out, to hold and explore. Silent, concentrated. Breed heard Grain stirring in the next room. She pulled away slightly, taking firm hold of Saoirse's wrist, and led her through the door, pulling it closed and locking it. Saoirse followed her up the short, curving flight of stairs to the outer door, which stood open to the sky. Breed closed it behind them, wondering briefly why it had been open. Saoirse once more enfolded her in her arms, hands sliding across the surface of shirt, catching in it, taking it with her fingers, sure, swift movements, and her hands were touching flesh. Breed pulled away suddenly. What are we doing? Making love on the roof? Saoirse glanced about her. The roof sloped gently up to its ridge, a narrow walkway separating it from the defensive parapet inserted with arrow slits. There was only the one door, and Breed held the key. Saoirse positioned herself cautiously back to the stone tiles of the roof, one knee hitched up to keep balanced. I've never been anywhere so uncomfortable, she said. There isn't room to stand or sit or lie. Breed stretched awkwardly beside her and scanned the stars. Saoirse turned and watched the rise and fall of Breed's chest, sharp, fast breaths, the key still gripped tightly in her fist. She reached and smoothed the half-unbraided hair and followed her fingertips with her mouth. Breed turned her head away. Saoirse tasted hot, angry tears. She rolled closer, pressing her body against Breed, wrapping them both in the heavy folds of Grain's mantle, licking the tears away, tracing the folds of her eyes, lashes, lids, brow with the tip of her tongue. The rhythm of Breed's breathing changed, no longer harsh and contained, now ragged with open weeping. Saoirse moved her mouth to still the trembling, smother the sobs, catching Breed's lower lip between her teeth briefly. Breed sighed, a deep gust of released tension, her hands tangled in Saoirse's, holding her still, the key hot metal between their joined palms. She returned the kisses with an urgency and tender seriousness that had Saoirse shamed. This isn't a game, Breed said softly. No, Saoirse agreed, I see that. I want you, Breed said, half amazed at how easy it was to say, but you are not free. Saoirse moved her head sharply, more protest than denial. You are not, Breed repeated fiercely, and I do not know how to be how I feel. If I could take off my skin and wrap it about us both and be one with you, I still wouldn't be close enough. And I know you don't feel the same. Saoirse shook her head. My skin is wrapped about Grain, but not. I'm not free, but not the way you mean. If I could, I'd be with you, as close as you want, but not like this. Not stealing kisses on the stairs, not fumbling like adolescent virgins. I want this to be... Saoirse stopped, shocked at the word forming in her mind. To be, Breed asked. Permanent? Saoirse whispered. Breed's breath had all but stilled. This is all I have to offer for now. If it's not enough, I will understand. Breed gripped the key tightly and couldn't look at her. I quite enjoy the fumbling, she said, but there's no strength behind her attempt at humour. She cleared her throat, but no, it isn't enough. So I should let you alone to find someone with more to offer. No, Breed's denial came fast and anguished. What then? Breed shook her head, not knowing the answer. This is different. With Tegan, I knew how far it could go, how much she would allow me, how committed she was to Maeve, and whether I was prepared to settle for what I could get. I wasn't. So I did not begin. I kept silent. I knew she knew, but so long as I said nothing, did nothing, we were both safe. And she was a way out of the marshes. It wasn't easy, but it was possible. With you, I feel like I started the second I lay eyes on you. There's no keeping silent, no holding myself separate. It's too late already. What has started? Saoirse asked, confused and wanting to understand. Knowing, wanting. Goddess, Saoirse, can you really not know? I feel as though I'm walking the edge of a precipice, following you, and you are dancing along it, sure of your footing, and I'm stumbling, learning how to find my balance. I can't live like that. She pushed herself up from the tiles, wobbling as she found her balance, and turned to the door. She sighed heavily. Grain will have missed you by now. Saoirse watched her disappear into the darkness of the stairwell, and lay a few seconds more, staring at the velvet glory of the night, then scrambled to her feet and followed.